In case you're wondering, it is not too late to start selling on Amazon. Last year, we launched this new product in one of the most competitive categories on Amazon. And in the first year, it made over $200,000. However, this is not profit, it's just sales. So when you add in all of our expenses here, now what's left in profit is only $10,000. This is just over a 4% net margin.
Now, we're not gonna sit here and say that $10,000 isn't a lot of money, because it is. But the reality is, we've seen way too many TikTok and Instagram videos where people are showing their sales number and making it seem like it is all profit. Or if they actually do show their real profit numbers, then they make it seem like it was all earned right away. These types of videos are not only misleading, but they're setting up a lot of new sellers for failure. So to help bring clarity into the world of Amazon FBA, we're gonna show you what a lot of people just don't show you. These are the real numbers behind our Amazon business over the first year of launching a brand new product on Amazon.
So let's go ahead and take a closer look at our sales here. As you can see, we did around $228,000 in sales, but we actually had over $11,000 removed to cover both customer returns and promotional rebates, which is basically whenever we ran a coupon or a discount. This is the total number that customers saved. So that brought our sales closer to $220,000. Now, if we take a look at our profits here, after subtracting both the cost of making our product and all of our operating costs, that left us with just over $10,000. Now, moving over to this graph here, this is our monthly profits over the first year. And this right here is the zero line. Anything over this is profit and anything under it is a loss. As you can tell, we were actually in the red for the first 4 months of being in business. And it wasn't until month 5 here that we had our first profitable month. And then ever since then, we've been profitable for the rest of the year.
So why did it take us this long to become profitable? Well, in month 1 here, we had our startup cost, and this was around $5,000, and this really just included our first round of inventory, any product samples we had, photography, and a trademark. There were some other costs in there as well, but these are just the main ones. Then as we started selling in April, we began to make back our initial investment. However, we continued to stay in the red because in order to sell our brand new product with 0 reviews at the time, we had to run a lot of advertising campaigns, steep discounts, and then we were also selling at a much lower price than we are right now. And we did all this just to try to get shoppers to buy our product and leave a review. This is called the launch phase, and typically you'll need to go through a similar phase just like this to help get the ball rolling on your listings. So it wasn't until about month 5 here in July that we had our first profitable month. This is actually when we raised the price back up, started to really optimize our advertising campaigns, and we actually had about 68 reviews at this time here. So because we tightened things up and had a decent amount of reviews, we were then able to officially exit the launch phase and start becoming a much more profitable business. And as the graph shows here, this was the start of an uphill trend of staying profitable. In fact, if we just take a look at the months following the launch phase, our profit margin increased to over 11%. And this really actually would have been much higher if we didn't go out of stock during these 2 months here.
So let's now go back to the full year and do some quick math. During months 1 through 4, we were in the red by about $7,000. It then took another 6 months here to recoup our investment and make over $7,000. This means it took us 10 months total to become profitable selling on Amazon. Now, if you're out there still deciding whether or not to sell on Amazon, don't let this launch phase scare you away. As we just showed you, the payoff at the end is very much worth it, and a ton of new sellers are able to do exactly what we've been able to do. In fact, this year we ran a study where we surveyed 3,500 sellers in over 100 countries, and we found out that more than half of the sellers were profitable within their first year of launching their business, and only 20% were profitable within the first 3 months. So while Amazon is not the get-rich-quick scheme that a lot of video creators are pushing, it's still very much possible to earn profit within that first year.
Now, when we looked into the sales of the sellers over their first year, nearly a quarter of them reached annual sales greater than 100,000. Even more interesting is that this number shoots all the way up to 60% when a seller has 3 or more years of experience. But like we said earlier, sales is just revenue, and it doesn't tell the true story of how much money a business brings in. So when it comes to profits, more than half of sellers reported margins higher than 10%, and nearly a third reported margins above 20%. These are all really encouraging numbers, and it really just goes to show that while competition on Amazon has increased over the past few years, there's still so many new sellers out there finding early success.
So, is Amazon still worth it? Absolutely it is. But before you become a successful 6 or even 7-figure seller, you not only need to have the right mentality and the right expectations, but you also need to have these 3 things. So let's go ahead and talk about each one of these, starting with money. One of the biggest questions that we always get asked is, how much money should I start with? In our case, our first round of inventory cost around $5,000. And while you certainly can start with a lot less, we found that the majority of sellers were able to start their business with around about that amount. Nearly a quarter started with less than $1,000, and it's also worth noting that 16% was able to start with less than $500.
So if you plan to launch your own private label brand, yes, you will need to start with more money. But if you're just wanting to get started as quickly as possible, other business models like online arbitrage or wholesaling are great options for smaller budgets. Now, outside of money, the next biggest challenge you'll have is the time it takes to launch and grow your business. To successfully sell on Amazon, you need to put in the time it takes to be successful. If you're consistently working at least a few times a week, you can quickly launch your first product within 3 to 6 months. But really, the best piece of advice that we can give you is to just go at your own pace and don't rush this process, especially during the product research phase. This is by far the most important step you want to get right. Now, coming up in a minute here, we're going to show you how to get started finding the best products to sell. But real quick, if you're getting any value from this video so far, let us know by hitting the like button down below.
Now, in the beginning stages, you'll likely spend more time doing product research than you do managing your business. But once you launch your product, you'll still need to put some time into optimizing things like your listings, advertising campaigns, and maybe even doing some off-Amazon promotions. So if you're using Amazon FBA to handle all of the logistical tasks like storage, shipping, and fulfillment, you can reasonably expect to spend less than 20 hours per week on your business. Now, how much time you put in really just depends on what you want to get out of your business. But also, that doesn't mean that more time necessarily equals more success. In fact, some sellers are able to work much more efficiently than others, just by knowing the right things to look for and the wrong things to look out for. So to help you get going on the right track, it's nice to have a little bit of help along the way. Running an Amazon business is completely different from other types of online selling. So that means there's a little bit of a learning curve involved. When we asked sellers what their top challenges were, these were the responses that we received. It doesn't come as a surprise that getting reviews and finding products to sell are at the top of this list. These are 2 steps during the launch phase that unfortunately a lot of new sellers never get out of. Thankfully though, with a little bit of help, thousands of new sellers have achieved success here.
So to help you get going in the right direction, the first thing you need to know is how to find the best products to sell on Amazon. Now, thanks to all the free content right here on YouTube, product research is becoming a whole lot easier for new sellers to do. So as the next step in this video, we highly suggest watching our complete 1.5 hour long tutorial that covers everything from product research, reaching out to suppliers, and how to optimize your listings. It actually took us a few months to create this tutorial, and from the comments we're receiving so far, it seems to be helping a lot of new sellers. So thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.